Hello Underground members, it's me Kisame Unlimited, the Underground Leader, and today's video I'm going to discuss deck building because it's something that, every player does. They construct their decks and everything, and I'm going to just give like my, idea of how I build the deck. Now, what I first do is, a lot of people don't do this. Some do, some don't. I just do because I'm so used to it over the years. And that is, I always use a 40 card deck. I can't use 41, 42, or anything else. Because I see anything over 40 is inconsistent. And you won't draw what you need as quickly as possible. And that could hurt you in the long run. Now, that's one thing, that's why I always run 40 card decks. Because most of my friends would always say, I drew a horrible hand. I'm the kind of person where I never draw a horrible hand. I'm just not that kind. I never really get a horrible hand, because whatever I draw, I somehow work with it. There's never been an opportunity where I'm like, fuck, I'm not like that. I mean, occasionally there'll be a time when I'll be going up against somebody and they'll be controlling the field more and I'll be losing cards to keep up. But that's not me getting a bad hand, that's just me not being able to keep up with something that's probably a more top-tier deck that I can't legitimately compete with a deck. Like, let's just say if I'm using X-Sabers against Insectors, my X-Sabers are good, and I'll get a good hand, but that's not going to change the fact that they could just have better field control than X-Sabers. I mean, my X-Sabers can do good field control, but not as good as Insectors. And you see, it's stuff like that. You see, with me, I just think a 40 card deck, it lets me get into my plays much more quicker. Now, the other thing is, where a lot of people, I'm going to say this because I really don't think that there's a problem with this, and it comes to staples. When it comes to constructing a deck, a lot of people have problems with this when people say about originality, because originality, I stress this many times before, and this irritates me that people can't grasp the understanding of this. Originality doesn't mean you have to run an old school deck from fucking 5-10 years ago. Originality doesn't mean that... You see, the best example is like this. You can use any deck. Insectors, Windups, Twilight Dragons, anything that's top tier, you can do that. That's not a problem. Originality has nothing to do with what's topping at YCSs or topping in Nats or anything. It doesn't matter. Originality is those few cards in a deck that, that don't really fit. When you see other people's deck builds, most of them, hopefully most of them, are different. Even if it's a little card here, a little card there. But you know what? It's those little cards here and there that make you different, which make you stand out, which makes you original. You see, it only takes maybe 2 to 3, 4, 5 cards to really do it. Even one card that just stands out could do the trick. You could look at other people's deck profiles. I do it too. I mean, I always let's just say when X-Sabers, when I was interested in X-Sabers, I knew nothing about X-Sabers, so you know what I did? I sat down and I researched the deck. I sat down and saw a whole bunch of people play it. I watched duels, I watched the deck reviews, and I've seen how the deck worked. So I got an idea of how I wanted mine to look like. And then after you throw in staples and the actual cards to make the deck's engine go, then when you fill that void, there's a very small opportunity to take some cards, when some people are like, you have to use 3 of this or 2 of this, sometimes when you sit down and think, you're like, you know what, I see why this is at 3 in a deck, but just because it's at 3 doesn't mean I want to use it at 3. And you throw in something that you think would do better. And see, those are the things that make you original in a deck. And that's what I do mainly. And the other thing is, when it comes to staples, everybody has to use staples because it's just a necessary in this game. And when it comes to deck building, I always keep it 40 cards and then adding the staples. Like a good example is Torrential. It's a staple. Solemn Warnings, staple. Mirror Force, staple. Compulse, staple. Bottomless, staple. Book of Moon, Pot of Duality, Pot of Avarice, MST, Monster Reborn, Heavy Storm, Darkhold. Those are all staples. No matter what deck you really use, in so much way you're going to be playing those cards. It's just natural. And then you have to throw the actual mechanics of the deck that actually have to focus. Most of the time, I back in the old days when I used to construct the deck, it would always try to be, I would try to make it 20 monsters, 10 spells, 10 traps. I would always try to do that. Now that, you know, the game's changed, I most of the time use more spells than anything else to just dominate the field better. And, you know, but overall, I still keep a good balance of spells and traps, unless it's a deck that, you know, defies the logic, like, kind of like my Light Swarms, and where it's like, I don't really want to use many traps. But that's with, you know, that scenario. But overall, when it comes to a deck, that's kind of how I want to keep it. 40 cards, put the staples in. Another thing that's also good is Dueling Network. I mainly use Dueling Network because it's the best way. You see, back in the old days, when I didn't really have, you know, DN, and none of us had DN, it's a little harder to do deck building because I used to have to get the cards first, then duel and practice. Now it's the kind of part in this game where I could legitly have the cards on a website first, test them out, see if I really want them before purchasing them. That's a good scenario for me. So if I could go, I'll go through the steps pretty easily that I would say, you know, to do. 1, trim your deck down to 40. If your deck is already at 40, congratulations. If your deck's at 40, 42, 41, I don't like it, but I kind of understand because some people really don't want to take out that last thing that really makes and breaks the deck. But overall, I would try to make it 40. After making it 40, you have to add the necessary staple cards. After adding the staples, then you have to throw the engine in, which is like, you see, like this is my C for C deck. You see, engines is stuff like Mystic Tomatoes, like how I'm able to, you know, keep going and trim down my deck. By trimming down your deck, lets you get into your plays quicker and faster. Then you have, you know, my engine mainly is Gen XL Crusher in my C for C deck. So I'm still, like, when I do that, you know, Mystic Tomato could also bring out Gen XL Crusher. So after you put in your engine, then you're going to try to make it consistent. You're going to try to make a good balance of everything. Good balance of traps, good balance of spells, and a good balance of monsters. That when you're going up against somebody, you don't really get taken advantage of, like, oh damn, where are my traps? Or oh damn, where are my spells? Like, damn, I'm not drawing any monsters. You want a good balance of each. Not like, oh, no. Well, then there's also the extra deck, which you can't really forget about, because the extra deck is also what fuels it. Because most people use extra decks, but if anybody, you know, use tuners or XYZs, you already know the research of them. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, you have the 40, staples, the engine, consistency, you have draw power, you have, hopefully you have some form of recycling. So overall, that's how I build a deck. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.